This is your next lesson on the GCSE Medicine course, New Approaches to Prevention, Vaccinations and Public Health. As you can see from the title, we are moving away from superstitious and religious bases for the explanation of illness, and we're moving on to more scientific and rational ones. Vaccinations and public health, the role of the government in looking after the people. This is where we are in the course. We've moved down 1700 to 1900. We've looked at the work of Pasteur and Robert Koch. Pasteur discovers germs. Robert Koch identifies which germs cause which diseases. We've already looked at the work of Jenner and how cowpox could prevent smallpox. And now we're down here, new prevention approaches to prevention, the development and use of vaccinations, and the Public Health Act of 1875. Now an act is a law, and therefore what we are starting to see now as science provides solutions, people turn to the government to provide the answers. So if, for example, vaccinations are proven to work, it is the government that are going to have to take the lead in making sure that the vaccinations take place. So the first thing we're going to do is the word unscrambling. These are key words. We'll go through them. There are 10 of them. You need to be able to unscramble each of these words, and then you need to be able to understand and explain why each of them are significant to the course. We'll pause after I've gone through the 10 words. So pause the video now and make sure you can firstly unscramble each of the words and then secondly explain why they are significant. Please pause here. So the first one is spontaneous generation. Now this might well be the first time we've come across this term. The belief that infection spontaneously came into being on an open wound. It's a rational explanation, but it's a wrong one. Now another incorrect rational explanation, and this one's been around for a very long time, and that's miasma. Bad smells cause the transmission of disease. Louis Pasteur, the famous French chemist who discovers germs and then suggests that it's the germs that cause infection. And it was his experiments on wine exposed to the air that would prove that. In 1861, he writes this down as his germ theory. Robert Koch was the German bacteriologist who built upon the work of Louis Pasteur. He identified which germs cause which disease, and he was funded very heavily by the German government, who saw the French and the work of Louis Pasteur as a rival, and therefore they tried to outcompete each other. Florence Nightingale, the British nurse who reformed the nursing profession during the Crimean War. Edward Jenner, the British doctor who employed the scientific method of hypothesis and experimentation and then publication to prove that cowpox prevented smallpox, but without actually knowing how it worked. Vaccination. Notes on Nursing, Florence Nightingale's book. And number 10 is the Franco-Prussian War. Quite obscure, this one, but this goes to show the rivalry between France and Germany, of which Louis Pasteur and Robert Koch are an example. On the following slides then, see if you can guess the following individuals from the clues. Work your way through, pause when required. New approaches to prevention, the development of vaccinations and public health. What I would now like you to do is take a look at the timeline page in your booklet and take a look at these key steps and breakthroughs in the development of vaccinations and the improving situation for public health for the people. I would like you to use the timeline in your booklet in order to place these statements on the timeline. So, as the task says, use the attached statements to create a timeline of key developments in vaccinations and public health. Your timeline should start in 1790 and end in 1930. Make sure your timeline separates vaccinations and public health. So, public health being the responsibility of the government to look after the people. So one suggestion might be is that you put the breakthroughs in vaccinations on the top and the improvements in public health on the bottom of your timeline. What I want you to do is make sure you can explain the significance of each one of these statements. So please don't just do this as a cut and paste or a copying activity onto a timeline. I need to know why these are significant. Follow-up questions. What was the most important in development relating to vaccinations? 2. What was the most important development relating to public health? And thirdly, what was the main difference between the 1848 and 1875 Public Health Acts?